I'm the Doctor.
I'm a time lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation of Cerberus. When I say Reprise,
Time and relative dimension in space.
It means life.
Greetings, humans, Daleks, Time Lords, and slithery snakes. You are listening to Exterminating Doctor Who.
This is the show where we take unpopular episodes and debate whether they're really all that bad.
With your hosts, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And in today's episode, we are talking Doctor Who, the movie. Okay, this is your introduction to the Eighth Doctor.
Well, I love how it's the introduction, and also at the time, like kind of without if you take away the webisode, it's basically just his only kind of on-screen appearance in a sense. Like the webisode is an official appearance, obviously, but it's 6 minutes. So you know what I mean? Doesn't really.
It's not really about the Doctor. It's just to fill in his regeneration because we hadn't seen one before,
basically. But
this, you were quite resistant to watching this one.
I was not. I was just. You said, right, we're going to watch the movie, and I was, this is going to be some sort of old, terrible thing. Like, it's America Doctor Who. It's going to be terrible. I'm going to hate it. I'm just going to think, God, what is this absolute... I'm not going to swear anymore, by the way, in this episode. I'm going to do a non-swearing episode.
Making it...
But actually, I really quite enjoyed this episode. Like, thoroughly, I enjoyed it. There are moments where it's... But...
Same. I had a lot of fun with this. Like I was saying, a lot of it is just nostalgic. Like, oh, I remember this. But a lot of it as well is like, this is fun. This is nice to watch. There is stuff I really... The thing is about this episode, I'm going to call it... We'll keep saying episode, but it is a... Because it was aired on TV, so theoretically...
How many minutes is it? Because it feels quite short.
It's 85 minutes.
So it's not really...
And about 10 minutes at the start was I took the Master's body.
From Skaro?
From Skaro.
Why was he on... I'm so... Right, that...
That was like the first 10 minutes, so that doesn't really count,
because it's not like 2 hours long. It kind of feels like a slightly longer episode in a sense as well.
Yeah, basically.
Like I got like weird kind of statement. In this film, it felt movie-like for a good, like I'd say the first bit up until he kind of leaves the hospital. That felt very movie-like, but from then onwards, it kind of felt TV-ish in a sense.
Yeah, there are a couple of things like the motorbike chase where they bring back the movie element, but the rest, but the rest does feel like
just a
TV
special,
a TV movie. Yeah, but I do something we were saying. I think perfectly sums this up, and will be the ongoing theme as we go forward. Is that this is the bridge between classic and New Who.
Yes, you mentioned that yesterday, and I've said this multiple times, but it is the kind of that's the epitome of what this film is.
Because it's like there are loads of classic elements in there, including obviously the Seventh Doctor essentially has a cameo because he just sort of gets his regeneration out the way. Doesn't talk or do anything. No, I think he just kind of goes, "The time, the Master." I think that's him done.
Imagine that was David Tennant's ending.
That's his role.
I know.
But then there's also a lot of stuff. When I was watching it, I thought there's a lot of elements here that are very New Who. And I thought a lot of things, as much as we love Russell T Davies, but a lot of things that about New Who that we credit to Russell T Davies or actually should be credited to this.
It's kind of like Russell T Davies saw this and was like, right, you've done some good things here. Let's take those, but you've done some dumb stuff.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
It does feel like some sort of prototype version of New Who, this, in a sense.
Yeah, it is. And it's that. I love that because it was supposed to be marketed for the Americans.
I noticed in the special features there was BBC trailer and then Fox promo. Yeah. And it's like, no one in America's going to watch this.
I love that if I said to somebody like, what would you do? What would happen in an American remake of Doctor Who? The first thing you'd probably say is, I don't know, the Doctor has a gun, gets shot or something. So literally, he opens the TARDIS door and gets shot
immediately
by a gang. Like I was watching that going, yep, this is American Doctor Who.
Yeah, he gets shot though, but does he get killed by those gun wounds? those gunshot wounds?
No, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, we'll
Because
get
I
into
was
that.
looking at who else auditioned for the role of the Eighth Doctor in this episode. There's actually some really interesting people. Let me just have a sip of this and get the list up. For example, one of them, the person that the person of the crew really wanted to be the Doctor, was Jim Carrey,
Oh, God. That's very American, isn't it?
and then he passed on it. Was like, no. But the other people that auditioned, there's some names in there that I thought, wow, that's quite interesting. And one of them, right? So I'll just read the ones I know. Rowan Atkinson auditioned,
Well, he's in the...
who ended up in Curse of Fatal Death. Yeah,
That's hilarious. So
Yeah.
to be fair, he was a very good Doctor.
yeah. Mark McGann
Who's that?
auditioned.
his dad?
That's Paul McGann's brother. It's all the McGann brothers. They're all actors, aren't they? There's one-
Oh, okay. So basically, they were just like, right, if none of us get it, right, we're just going to all audition. One of us will get it.
Yeah.
And we look similar. We can just.
Because one of them's in not Holby City, Call the Midwife as well. And I always look at him and go, oh, you look like Paul McGann. Oh, yeah, it's his brother. Eric Idle auditioned, of Monty Python fame. Tim McInnery auditioned, who's from Blackadder and also the episode of Doctor Who.
Who does he play in Blackadder?
He's the one that always gets ripped on. I can't think what his name is.
Oh, was he the one in the Ood? Was he one who kind of where he has his
In
brain
Ood,
fall
and
out?
his hair falls out. He
yeah.
auditioned as well. I don't know some of these names. Anthony Head auditioned, of Buffy the Vampire fame, and he ended up in School Reunion. He's the Krillitane.
He would have been interesting.
He's a school principal. He's there. Rick Mail auditioned, which is amazing to me. He's one of my absolute comedy icons, Rick Mail, and I cannot see him as the
I
Doctor.
don't know who he is.
Well,
Sorry. Aidan.
shame on you.
I'm sorry.
Billy Connolly.
I know who he is.
Billy Connolly was apparently considered, but he didn't audition. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite one. Peter Capaldi was offered an audition, and he said, "No, I'd never get that part." So didn't even bother with the audition.
Wow.
I love that.
That is incredible. The more I learn about Peter Capaldi, the more I fall in love with that man. Because honestly, he is...
How
Wow.
humble that is. Just like, no, I'd never be Doctor Who. Fast forward 20 years.
And he's one of the best.
And he's my favourite Doctor,
Yeah.
yeah. So that I think that's really interesting who they were considering for the role here,
Yeah.
because it is very...
Right, apart from Peter Capaldi in that list, I'm glad we got
Paul McGann,
because he's bringing something very different to the role. He's energetic and he's young. You know, you get it's
like I was saying to you, I was saying he's often dubbed the romantic Doctor. That's most Doctors are given like a this sums up that Doctor kind of thing, and he is seen as the romantic Doctor. And I was saying to you, you don't get to David Tennant without Paul McGann.
no, you don't get to any of the new ones.
Russell T Davies wouldn't even consider let's have a young, energetic, romantic Doctor if they hadn't done it here. It probably would have been another Stoics. Well, it probably wouldn't with Russell T Davies, to be fair, but it probably would have been more in the line of the Stoic sort of, I'm the Doctor, I'm the authority figure of the classic series. And I think it's really interesting to watch Paul McGann in this and go, oh, wow, so a lot of those things that come later.
A lot of
There's
those
lot
mannerisms.
of Matt Smith mannerisms as well, I thought. I thought that this is where they come from.
Like, I do see a lot of New Who Doctors in this Doctor, and I think they must have looked at him, either the writers or the actors, and I'd say all of them, really. They would have looked at this and thought, right, what's wrong? Fix that. But the energeticness, that's a word now, and it's just... I went into this expecting classic Who gonna be a bit naff. That's what I was expecting. But I went into this and I saw proto New Who, and I was like, this is genuinely enjoyable. Especially the moments where his mannerisms of like Paul McGann playing the Doctor, which are just like, that is so the Doctor I know. Like with the letterbox where he's peering through the letterbox. And
I love this because the two, when you were as the audience know, we send each other live reactions as we watch the episode. So some of that was really interesting because I was about half an hour ahead of you, if not slightly more. But I wrote 2 notes for the Doctor, and both of those notes you ended up sending me as videos. So I thought we're obviously really on the same page there. And you're right, the one through the letterbox when he goes, "I thought you were a Doctor." Then it's like, "I thought you were a Doctor."
Exactly like that. It's like, I thought you were a Doctor. I thought you were a Doctor. It's proper. It's very defensive Doctor. It's very kind of it's so childish, but that is so the Doctor as well.
And the other one I wrote down, which I thought I really like, is when he's talking about the skies with the meteor showers,
which is a really lovely moment. That as well.
And then he goes into yes. What? And she's like, what? And he goes, these shoes, they fit so well, and then just runs away. I love that moment.
And it's a jaunty skip away. It is so Doctor, like he's having a completely separate thought, and then like just two completely separate thoughts coming together somehow. A companion being confused as to what the hell's gone on, and he's just like, these shoes.
And I really like it because it's like, again, it's got to be. I think the writing of this is very hit or miss, I think, to reference the guest of last week.
Right.
But because the Doctor is done really well.
Yes.
But the Master is done
terribly.
But we'll come on to that shortly. But the point I was going to say is a lot of that has got to be attributed to the writing and how they've written the Doctor. But also Paul McGann's, the way he's played it. Because even that sort of that energy of the Doctor isn't really in Classic Who. And I've not seen all of Classic Who, admittedly. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're supposed to be right. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
I've seen.
He's betrayed your trust here.
I've not seen all of it, but I've seen the vast majority of it. Okay, so the only other young Doctor I can think of with the energy is the Fifth Doctor, but the Fifth Doctor is a bit more quiet and contemplative, even though he's in like a cricket outfit. There is an episode where he does play cricket, of course. But generally, of what I've seen of him, he doesn't. They try to make the most of his energy by making him run around and be a bit like that, of course. But generally, he's known as the compassionate Doctor. That's what he's known as.
What is David Tennant? Just the crybaby Doctor?
I think he's usually seen as the arrogant Doctor.
That's depressing.
That's usually how he's.
Oh.
I think he's.
This is right. I love it. Classic Who, the compassionate Doctor, the romantic Doctor, the kind Doctor, the New Who,
well, it's absolutely much more depressing because then you've got like the War Doctor is the genocide Doctor. You've got the Ninth Doctor is the traumatized Doctor. 10 is the arrogant. 11 is the old man in a young man's body. 12 is the grumpy Doctor. 13 is the he's Doctor.
Hey, right, I might have one swear.
Well, it'll bleep out anyway.
I find it hilarious. That is hilarious how it's right. New Who, since the War Doctor, they're just terrible people.
Depressing.
Now. They're just sad.
So
like
depressing.
It's right. You've committed this genocide. And now you're the arsehole Doctor.
Classic Who as well. It's like the first Doctor is the granddad Doctor. The second Doctor is the cosmic hobo. The third Doctor is the scientist. The fourth Doctor is the eccentric. Fifth Doctor is the compassionate. Sixth Doctor is the dark Doctor. And seventh Doctor is, I guess, the entertainer.
The dark Doctor.
Listen how positive they are.
The dark Doctor. They don't name him like the arrogant Doctor. Like it's something like the evil Doctor or the kind of the malicious Doctor, like that kind of thing. No, it's the dark Doctor, implying he's mysterious and still a good person. Whereas the moment you get to New Who, they're like they've either whoever came up with that list just loves New Who, loves Classic Who more than New Who, or as they were writing it, they completely forgot what to do. But we need new adjectives.
Yeah, but then the Sixth Doctor is still. We're going on a tangent here, but the Sixth Doctor, I mean, he's dark because in his first episode he strangles his companion. He goes, "You are a traitor," and just strangles her.
So he's a murderer.
And then
he's a criminal.
One of his later episodes, he pushes a guy into a acid bath.
So he's a criminal.
And then goes, "Ooh," and walks away.
Yeah, Dark Doctor.
As much as we criticize,
murderer.
As much as we criticize the 13th Doctor on this podcast, the Sixth Doctor is my least favorite of them all. Because I just watched him. I'm like, what are you doing?
I love that. Okay, we've got this guy, this Doctor, he's murdered people. Shall we give him a name that suits him? Or shall we just make it nicer because he's class? Right, this list with all these names, I disagree.
So yeah, that's the Doctor, generally. I do think his chemistry with Grace was very, very strong. Yeah,
she was great as well. I think she was great.
As a one-off companion kind of thing.
Yes, and she was great with the Doctor. As a Doctor herself, and killing the patient.
Yeah, he has a lot to say on the medical negligence. We'll get onto that in a moment. But I think, again, she's a nice break from the classic series, because even though the last companion we'd had in the classic series was Ace, we've gone from Ace to Grace, which reminds me of in
Ace, that's a cool name.
Ace. She's one of the best classic companions as well. She attacks a Dalek with a baseball bat at one point.
How did that go for her?
It's amazing. She destroyed it. These are classic Daleks. They're made out of cardboard, remember?
Oh,
so she just
impressive.
goes poof and smashes it to pieces because it's Ace. She's amazing.
I just want to put Ace up against a New Who Dalek now. Eat this!
She'd
Bang!
she'd still destroy it. It's Ace. She has all sorts
What
of
does Ace look like?
I'm sure she carries like grenades and stuff on her.
Oh my God.
She's amazing.
So is she just a walking arsenal?
She's
Oh no, there's a Dalek here. What
She's
should I get?
amazing, Aces. She's one of the best companions in the show's history.
I think it's
Aces.
just because she's a badass and she doesn't need the
Exactly.
Doctor. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Reminds me a lot of Sarah Jane in a sense, in like the Sarah Jane adventures.
Yeah, so she's the last companion we'd had in Classic Who, but before that, and generally, besides Sarah Jane and maybe a couple of other notable exceptions here and there, Classic Who companions, generally, their sole purpose is to do one thing.
What?
Ah, it's an alien! Doctor, help me!
Oh.
That's the purpose of classic companions. So
Yeah.
when Grace is here and she's like a woman with a job,
What?
with a life,
What?
with a character, and what she's going, wow,
The first Doctor.
this is new for
wouldn't-
Doctor Who, isn't it?
Imagine the first Doctor with her,
Ah, no, exactly, because
Janie Mac.
it's just, yeah, I mean, Sarah Jane was the first break from that, obviously. She's like, I'm a journalist. It's like, oh, tell me more. But-
After Sarah Jane, did they continue down that kind of strong female character? or
yes,
did they,
for a while.
but
The
did they
next, the
revert?
next one after Sarah Jane is Leela, who is a warrior woman. So she's got knives and stuff. She's
Is
got-
that
I mean-
where Matt Groening got the character Leela from?
Very likely.
Because you just described Leela.
Very,
Both Leelas.
very possibly. That was Leela. After that, it was then Romana 1 and 2. That was a Time Lord. She's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get like Nissa and Tegan. And Tegan's a bit better, but Nissa, I've not seen all of her episodes, but the ones I have seen, she sort of just stands around in a pretty dress.
Mm.
And it's like,
That's a shame.
what are you there for? And then,
It's a shame that
and
'cause it's
then,
like you've done something good here by having Sarah Jane and then having some like progression and having female characters who are actually like
because the
good, you know?
80s have come along here, and a showrunner called Jonathan Nathan Turner comes in, and next to Chibnall, he's my least favourite.
Lovely.
He was put it this way, Jonathan Nathan Turner was the showrunner under which it was cancelled. so that's how that feels. And then the next companion along was Perry, who
White.
they basically just stuck her in as few clothes as possible.
Oh, that's a shame. It really annoys me that it's like, okay, someone here's made a good decision, and you're finally doing the right thing by having the female characters be characters, not being these mannequins. You know what I mean? And then a writer comes along and is like, "Nah, I'm a sexist. Let's just
Yeah,
you know."
I think I've told you
it
about
annoys
this.
me.
I think I've told you about this before as well, but when it's Peter Davison's regeneration, he's lying on the floor on the TARDIS, and Perry's crouched over him in a very low cut top.
Oh, for God.
And they basically, there is a special feature where you can watch them directing that scene, and she's
Yeah.
basically crouched like that, and they go, "Bit lower, please. Bit lower, please. Bit lower, please."
Oh,
And then they zoom in, and it's like, oh my God, this is only 1984. It's like, this is horrendous. And then after Perry, they still carried on the downward slope and went for Bonnie Langford, and she's my least favourite companion ever, playing Mel. And she just stands around screaming. She was hired because she can do a high-pitched scream. And most cliffhangers end with her screaming because it's the same pitch as the do you know what I mean, when it ends like that. So she'll go, that's literally the reason she was hired. And then after that, Ace came in, and then the Doctor Who was cancelled. So seeing Grace here, that was the original point.
Yeah.
Seeing Grace here,
it's
as
nice
a
being back
character,
on
and, like,
track to a good
yeah, and like when she walks into
representation
her
of women, you know?
yeah, and when she walks into her house and she's like, oh, he's taken all the stuff. It's another layer to her. It's like, you didn't actually need to add that. This isn't really.
That's a very Russell T Davies technique. I remember him speaking about that, how you've got to have these characters have stuff outside of the life within the whatever medium it is, film, TV, or whatever. because otherwise the characters feel very one-dimensional. And having her, as you're saying, have this ex-boyfriend and a background and a job and then all that kind of stuff, it adds layer to the character, means she isn't just... She's a character in this universe, not just
That's
some
why.
lines
That's why
on a page.
I really. I've never really had strong opinions on Grace before, but watching it here, I did really appreciate what they were trying to do with her. And even later on, when we are reminded that she's a doctor, she's an intelligent person, and when they're talking about the doctor's talking about the things with the controls and stuff, but she's like, "Yeah, I get it," and she there's no like confusion. She understands what's going on. So I do like that. However,
hold your point. Sorry. With Grace, the only problem with Grace is the fact we don't have her for long, so I can't really develop an emotional attachment with her. Like, I think she's brilliant in this, and I think she's a really important part of the story and the film. And I think she's a very good one-off companion. But the problem is, because we don't get her for long, it's like this with all one-off companions. I can't ever form a full judgment on them.
No, but I think she's in it. She's in this enough.
Yeah. Is she as good as Kylie Minogue?
And with the Doctor enough that it does the job.
Yes.
The companion I don't understand why the Doctor's so nice to him at the end is Chang Lee.
Genuinely, I thought,
The only because he's on the Master's side throughout, and then just switches at the end.
He's a criminal first
and
off.
the Doctor's like, "Yeah, keep the gold dust." I was like, "Okay."
He's done nothing redeeming.
Sure, but
he just at the end was like, "You've lied to me," and then it still wants he didn't redeem himself. There was no character.
I remembered him being.
He just felt annoyed because he was lied to.
I remembered him being more of a companion than that. And then when I watched it, I was like, I thought this doesn't he go with the Doctor? No, he's with the Master. Okay, so that confused me. And every time they were going Chang Lee, I was like, Shang-Chi? That's Marvel, isn't it? So that was
Got Shang-Chi on the brain.
He's so gullible as well.
I know.
Like, he literally walks...
The Doctor is this evil man who's scheming and he will destroy the planet because he likes to watch the world burn and the people look amazing on fire and I love it, but he's worse and this TARDIS is mine. Yeah, believe that guy.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, sure. And then at the end, in the scene I called the Clockwork Orange scene, which I hate
it's terrible
so much, when the Doctor's like going, can't you see that he's lying? He's like, and he just he takes it there. And then he starts to walk away from the Master, and the Master has to pull him back. And I'm like, seriously, man, you're so gullible. All you need is the Master to say, he's bad. And then you just need the Doctor to go, no, he's bad. And he's like, oh, I'm so torn.
You've destroyed my vision of this.
It was such a quick turnaround.
Yes. Aidan. That wall is blue.
Oh, really?
It could be yellow.
And here's some gold dust now that you've worked it out.
And anyway, gold dust is worth peanuts.
Yeah, I thought that as well. I thought
it'd be diamonds, and he was like, gold dust. I'm like, that's worth about 20 grand, maybe.
Well, it's probably more than he's got, though, isn't it? So
yeah, but it's still not.
Would you snub your nose at 20 grand?
No, but I think if this guy, this guy
you?
wants me to capture this person so he can steal his body, I'd be like, all right, a bit more than this gold dust.
If I've got nothing else, I'd be like, if I've got nothing else to do, I'd be like, yeah,
all right, sure, I'll help you with killing this man. Does it?
What are you? You're some snaky thing? Sure, whatever. I'll roll with that.
That is the what? So. What is the Master doing? I'm so confused. So he's ran out of lives.
I was going to talk about Grace's medical negligence, but I think we are now on to
the Master. We can come back to the medical negligence.
Yes, sure.
So the Master's run out of lives. Can you? I'm confused.
Time Lords have a limit of 12 regenerations
I know that.
and 13 lives. When he gets to the end of that, he's executed on Skaro for some reason.
Why Skaro? I thought that was the Daleks' homeworld.
Maybe he had crimes against the Daleks.
Maybe that's just because the writers.
We've not seen.
I'm assuming they probably just the writers remembering that.
Let's just reference. Let's just reference the Daleks.
Or just they couldn't think of another planet.
Maybe, yeah. Or.
But this is before the Time War, so it's kind of.
Yeah, because we haven't seen all of the Master's regenerations, so. Theoretically, he could have done something.
So this is just a jump, basically, being like that's why it's got all that exposition.
Because the first time we see the Master.
Mhm.
He's on his second to last regeneration, I think.
Okay.
And then
We skip that
he's all like all crusty, and then he possesses the body of somebody else and takes over, and then that Master disappears somewhere. I'm assuming that's when they have that execution bit. The scene is supposed to look like that Master. So
Okay.
I'm presuming that's when they get right.
That looked like original Superman CGI.
Yeah, but
Do you know when they're all being tried?
Let's just not talk about
Yeah,
that.
okay, right. For all I've said about New Who CGI, after seeing this, I'm so sorry.
This is what I'm saying to you, because I've seen so much stuff
Yeah.
with this kind of
Yeah.
CGI. Whenever you're in New Who, you're like, oh, God, CGI was bad. I'm like, is it?
I mean,
I've seen classic Who.
The thing is, though, the CGI could be better in New Who, but it's good, you know?
Compared to this.
So,
yeah.
this is giving me some perspective on the CGI scene for Doctor
Yeah.
Who and what it was.
The thing about the Master, though, is like his remains are put in that box, and the Master, in his will, I guess you could say, said that I wanted the Doctor to take me back to Gallifrey, which makes sense because he wanted to take over his body. That was the idea, so
Yeah.
that all makes sense. But then I was watching that going, okay, so his remains are in that box. Maybe that's turned into that sludge. Strange for a Time Lord to be turned into sludge, but maybe that's just what the Daleks did to him. Sure, let's roll with it. How did that become a sentient snake? And the Doctor actually explains it by saying there are no rules when it comes to death. So it's basically just going, roll with it, accept it.
But
He's
it's
a snake.
so dumb.
And
I hate
I
it.
do not like it.
It's when did Terminator come out? T2 after this? Or was it before?
91.
So before. Yeah. I don't know why I said after. I said after, and then my brain went. This was 1997, around that time. You idiot. So of course it was before. So yeah, before. So Terminator 2 was before this. Terminator 2 did look better because obviously it's Terminator 2. But so did they just see the T1000?
And go, let's do that.
Because it looks like, up until the point where it's kind of snaky, where it's looking a bit snaky, it's just a puddle, and it's just like you've just washed.
It's Terminator.
Yeah, it's a much worse version because
Especially when
there's no shadow effects on this puddle. So it's just, it is like, that's the, just right. You want to do the T1000. Okay, fair enough. That thing was amazing. Why did you not look at how that works and maybe try and replicate that? Why did you just, let's put the two together. Which one looks better? The one that came before or the one that came out? Oh, it's the one that came before. Why was that? Because we tried to copy something that we didn't have the budget to do.
Yes. It's a very strange thing. And then when it slithers up into Bruce's jacket, then he has the, don't call me honey, call me master.
Yeah, but why?
I'm just like, what is going
I
on
assumed
here?
the snake would bite him. Like, it'd be like, then it goes inside. But no, it decided to go down his throat. And then it's like
The thing
alien.
is, if it was just, I'd be more forgiving if it was just sludge moving around. I'd still hate it, but I'd be more forgiving. It's the bit when it goes, and it's
At the camera.
literally a snake.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what? Why is the Master a snake?
It doesn't make sense. The Master's never been a snake. Has the Master had these hypnotic powers before? I'm assuming yes.
Yeah,
yes.
the original Master
Yeah.
had that.
And I mean, in New Who, we kind of get elements of that with the temples where they.
They don't do it. They actually don't do it enough in New Who. I wish they would bring it back in New Who, because the first Master, he would basically. That was something I did like. One of the few things I liked about the Master here was how he even though Chang Lee was gullible, I did quite like the way the Master was able to manipulate him, because that was very classic Who.
Yeah.
Basically, the original Master would just sort of. He used to just find people. And he'd go, "You will obey me," and then they'd be under his under his power. It's the 70s.
Where are we going?
It's the early 70s. Roll with it. So I do like, and I do wish to kind of bring that back into New Who, the hypnotizing thing. So as much as I didn't like 99% of the Master in this episode, that was
It was nice they
one of the
used
things
that
I did
element.
like. Yeah, the manipulative side of him.
So the Master. But I think in New Who we have John Sim play the Master, and the way he's basically undercover, and he embeds himself into the planet as an undercover sleeper rate. Like, he's basically just a sneaky boy.
As does Professor Yana, really.
Professor
Yana.
Yana.
Derek Jacobi. The best master.
I recognise all of these, but my brain's completely
The one
forgotten.
who regenerates into John Sim. You know that
Yes,
massive
yeah.
scene.
Sorry, that.
One of the most pivotal moments of Doctor Who
I know.
ever.
Sorry. My brain, my brain was like, these names mean something, but my brain was like, actually, I'm not going to help you here.
One of the top five
I'm
masters.
I'm with you. But I feel like that's a nice, obviously, okay, with Derek Jacobi, we're doing that. I think that's maybe a better way, personally, of the master being manipulative, because shows his intelligence more than his comfort. Like, if this character can do this thing of just making someone control them, I feel like they're not that, they're formidable. They're scary because they can just go do what I want. But it doesn't really show me that the person there is formidable. It's just that they have a power.
Yeah.
Whereas being able to embed them yourself
really,
and be like sneaky and be like,
again,
back, baby.
Again, that's probably a product of New Who. We haven't got that here because we're based off Classic Who.
But they could have.
But like I said, the writer was obviously hired, and they've gone, "Wow, you write the Doctor really well." Well, the Master not so much, but sure, we'll just let you do that.
The Master's what's the actor's name?
Eric Roberts.
Eric Roberts, who played Salvatore Moroni in The Dark Knight.
In The Dark Knight. Yeah, Eric Roberts is. He plays the Doctor. He's come back to play the Master in like audio stuff, which I think is quite nice of him to do, really. But then I also think, sort of, not really sure
why,
how, because when you're sucked into the Eye of Harmony and all of that. But whatever. I'm just gonna let's talk about that Clockwork Orange scene because
the Eye of Harmony. Okay. First thing, it was nice seeing a different room to the TARDIS. Second thing, why was the different room of the TARDIS basically just a church outside?
Yeah, it's what we were saying about just as we continue here. The Gothic production design of this episode was to a T.
Yeah.
It was like we were saying, I think a lot of this has come off the back of the Burton era.
Yeah,
I know
so you got
the Burton / Schumacher Batman
because
films.
You got the Tim Burton Batman films, the two of them, and then you have the Joel Schumacher Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which were they were sequels to Tim Burton's films, but they were kind of half sequels. They're very, it's like the same universe, but not really. But this very much feels like off the back of both of those eras. But I think it feels more kind of Tim Burton-y than Joel Schumacher. But no, it's like, especially the opening scene on Earth in San Francisco. It's got all these smoky. It's got the smoke coming. Not the smoke.
That bit, the shot,
the steam.
The shot you sent me when they run up that alleyway. If Batman had dropped, you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
No, because it felt like the Joker goons, because it had the jackets with the Joker goons wore. It was very much just lifted from Batman 1989, because you have the steam effects. You have kind of it's a city, but it looks very much like a set in a sense. Very much, definitely felt like some sort of they were inspired by that.
I think so as well.
Production design.
It's like I was saying as well, when they are in the cloister room, I guess, which I really wish we'd see that again in New Who. I do, the cloister room, and the bats fly past, and then when it's all windy and there's leaves.
I was
blowing
expecting the Danny Elfman Batman theme to kick up.
Yeah, and there's like leaves blowing everywhere, and I'm like, why are there leaves and bats in the TARDIS? Like, what's that all about?
What the Doctor would have had to do is get those leaves in. He would have had to ship those in himself, and he's dressed that room up. He has.
Yeah, he would.
He's made it look all nice and this is my Gothic room. Got to make it look. Speaking of Gothic rooms,
right. I was googling which was the last Batman film before this, and it was Batman Forever. Was the year before 95. Oh, why is that only 38% Rotten Tomatoes? I know it's bad, but I quite like that one. Anyway, we'll talk about that in our Batman podcast which we're going to do over summer. Anyway, carry on with what you're about to say.
Speaking of Gothic, the whole TARDIS is extremely Gothic.
I absolutely love this TARDIS design.
I like how it's an entire set.
Because, again, this is a big break from Classic Who. Classic Who is essentially, I'd say, a room no bigger than this.
It's huge. Like, the console room is huge.
Yeah.
I don't like the console room being so big personally. I do quite like, because I like how you can have other rooms within the TARDIS, and that could be like his study and that kind of thing. I prefer that. And I want the console room to just be the console room, like a nice circular dome. I like that personally. But I think it's a very nice design. It's very different, and I am a fan of the way this one does a bigger room. I I prefer others. Like I like David Tennant's, I really do. I would have loved to see more of David Tennant's TARDIS. Like, I really would have. We saw, like, the wardrobe room, and that was amazing, but that's it. And it's like, come on, where does he sleep?
And they can't even pan the camera around in that set either, because it's a sitcom half set, and it, unlike Capaldi's, which is an entire room.
Which is to its advantage. And then you got Capaldi's. I do prefer Capaldi's over this one, but I do really like this design for it. It's very Gothic.
I'd say it's in my top 5 favourite designs.
It looks very cold, though.
Because I do really like... I sort of think...
It'd be a bit chilly in there.
I mean, I don't know what they did with the novels at this time. I really don't know much about that, to be fair. But the Ace has gone. The Seventh Doctor has changed outfit. So essentially, you could imagine that this is the Seventh Doctor in retirement. He's not really doing any adventures here. And in that case, you think by having, like... the seat with the record player and the books by the side of the TARDIS is essentially you can just sort of flick a switch, go sit down. Oh, is something the matter? I'll just go deal with that, but I'll just go back to my book. And I think that works for what this is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I do really like that. I also really like the... maybe I wouldn't have dedicated an entire panel to it, but I really like the switch on there, which tells you, like, the era you're in. And I love the way that it says... The Humanian era, as if Earth has eras where humans... are going to go as well. This is just the period where humans... I love that.
Yeah.
I really like that detail. I am a big fan of this TARDIS. So
I always love it when the TARDIS changes with the Doctor, so it would have been nice to have it change with him being younger again. Because I don't think this... I don't think the Gothic TARDIS kind of fits
his out. I think it fits his outfit,
but does it fit his personality?
I'd say it does, really, because he has that sort of Edwardian romantic Mr. Darcy thing going on.
Yeah, I think it could have been. I think I just think it being a bit warmer feeling, like in that respect, would have worked. Would have fit better with Paul McGann's Doctor, maybe.
But then also you got to think this was designed for that Doctor, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because this isn't Sylvester McCoy's TARDIS.
No, of course not.
This is just the one he happens to have at this point. So yeah, the original point of this was supposed to be the cloister room.
Oh, yeah.
Cloister room scene and the Clockwork Orange thing.
Terrible.
The Eye of Harmony is, again, something I wish we would see in New Who again.
I don't
and
want
we
it
briefly saw it in a Matt Smith episode. It did come back. The Doctor went, there's the Eye of Harmony. And I was like, oh, can I go over to that? Because it's got all this potential. But everything else around it, I despise. Grace getting possessed, hate it. The Doctor in that stupid thing, hate it. The Master in his stupid robes and doing the I always dress for the occasion.
I did like the Doctor line though. Like, we don't have time, like the Master's like, we don't have time to waste, but we do have time to change, haven't we? Like, but we've got time to change, have we? I love that. It's very much like, oh, come on, mate.
There's a bit as well, the Doctor, I can't think what the exact line is, but there is a bit when the Master says something to like, oh, I know what it is. It's when the Master kisses Chang Lee's forehead and goes, he's the son I always wish I had. And the Doctor says something like, oh, come on. Like something like that. And I think that's basically everybody watching that, isn't it? Going, oh, for God's sake. I hated that bit. I hated Chang Lee's gullibility. I hated the idea that the Master wants the Doctor's body, fair enough. But the sort of the...
Couldn't he just get another Time Lord, maybe?
Yeah, but that Doctor's his arch enemy, isn't it?
Yeah, the Doctor's the toughest one to get.
If the Master's going to get any Time Lord's body, it's going to be the Doctor.
Yeah, but the thing is, any Time Lord's body works the same because you regenerate.
Yeah, but it's
into
not the
whatever you look
Doctor,
like.
isn't it?
Yeah, but it's so much effort.
It makes sense for the Master.
Okay, it makes sense, but dude, maybe take the Doctor's body once you've got a temporary Time Lord body.
If it was another Time Lord like the Rani, who was after more regenerations, it would make sense for her to go to another Time Lord because she's just like, yeah, I've had beef with the Doctor, but whatever. Yeah. But for the Master.
Okay.
It makes complete sense that...
okay, right, I'm going to talk to the Master, right. You're struggling in this body, this human body. You know you are. So why didn't you just pick up a Time Lord body on your way here, use that one, then get the Doctor?
Well, he was dead.
Yeah. I mean, if he could turn into goo, he could control the TARDIS. Come on.
Well, maybe he couldn't.
I did completely forget that bit because I don't like that bit. The goo. I just forgot about that. You're right.
Repressed it.
Apparently so.
Is the actual word. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I like most things around this episode, besides the goo, besides the Master. When I think I called it the Clockwork Orange scene because of the thing that he does.
And then we're in the then we're in the New Year's party and it's really weird close up and it's like
yeah, and I think as well for like Paul McGann's acting, it just completely limited what he could do as well. Because he's just sort of there like going, we need to stop Grace. We need to stop the Master. And it's sort of like, can we give him roots?
Just chain him down. Just chain him. You know, you didn't need
I'd
the
rather-
headpiece.
It completely limits what he can do, and I think it's yes.
And it looks. I really enjoyed this film when it's being sci-fi, like spacey. But when it's being paranormal activity, I don't enjoy it as much.
No. Which
Like-
it includes the snake, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
that's the snake is a big part of that because it just
Yeah.
looks like something from Ghostbusters, in a sense. Just
I thought there were a lot of Ghostbusters elements to
Yeah,
this,
like-
especially in the scene you're talking about when it's doing all the close-ups and stuff, and the skies are all doing the.
Yeah.
I was expecting that sort of
Yeah,
music
yeah.
from. I know Ghostbusters, so I know exactly the music I mean
Ghostbusters is
here.
amazing.
I was expecting that music to start and the Stay Puft Man to just appear.
Yeah,
That's what I was
But
expecting.
in any element where it feels slightly paranormal, just make it spacey. Just make it space sci-fi. I think that would have worked better.
Yeah,
but I
I think you can keep the eye of harmony in that as well. You just need to restructure bits
don't.
around
Yeah,
it.
the eye of harmony. I don't like as being this kind of this staff and it being this kind of paranormal relic. It's like an old. It's like something from Indiana Jones, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
but it's more paranormal. I don't like how it is as that state. But if it were this science fiction futuristic thing, which obviously would look quite gothic, but if it were that, I'd prefer that, and I think I'd enjoy that more because I think that fits more in the universe of Doctor
when
Who.
it appears in the Matt Smith episode, it's essentially a star contained within the TARDIS, and they walk past. It's basically like a big a bridge between these two big things with a massive drop beneath it, and there's a massive star in that, and that's supposed to be that is the power of the TARDIS. That's the idea. That's when the Eye of Harmony came back, and I thought I really like that.
That's a really nice, because that shows you, number one, the scale of the TARDIS, and number two, just how powerful it is. Because I did not get a sense of power from a pit with blue smoke coming out. I don't know. I'd get rid of the Clockwork Orange stuff.
Yeah, the only two things I like about that scene. That's it. Firstly, the Master snapping Chang Lee's neck. I think that was so brutal.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. He didn't really snap. It was just, I'm going to turn your head. And
Yeah,
you're
but
dead.
I quite like. Not that I like that. 'Cause I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of that. I mean, I like that. 'Cause I'm like, wow, we are not in Classic Who anymore.
That's very that's like the Master being.
Yeah, I liked that. And the other thing I liked was when the Doctor and the Master are kind of having that scrap. And the
Yeah, I did like. I liked it. We don't see the Doctor and the Master having a scrap.
No,
and it was
but
really
why-
just different.
Again, they wrote the Doctor so well in that bit because the Doctor never fought back. He never threw a punch. He never. He kicked him to get out
He
of.
pushed him away.
He kicked him to get out of the eye of thing.
Yeah.
The Clockwork Orange thing. But when they were down on that by the eye itself, the Master was doof, doof, and the Doctor was just taking the beating because the Doctor isn't a fighter. And then if you think of again the wider context of this Doctor, he's going to have to learn to be.
Yeah.
Because of what's going to kick
Yeah.
off very soon.
Yep.
But then the other thing that I liked is that after all of this, and the Master is getting sucked into the eye, what does the Doctor do?
Give me a hand.
He says, give me your hand.
Which
Even after all of this,
Yeah.
he's still willing to
that's
save
the
him.
Doctor. And
I just got chills.
yeah, I
saying
know.
that.
Genuinely, same. That was
That was really weird.
yeah. That was. It's such a great moment for the Doctor, that, because it's like, no matter what, try and save you.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in New Who so much as well. Like in our episode before the last one, the week before last, spoke about the David Tennant with the Last Dalek.
Yeah, with Dalek Khan, yeah.
He's the Doctor, no matter which one, I believe, should always be compassionate.
Mm.
And I think that's something that's missing in the most recent Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. But I'm a huge fan of Paul McGann's Doctor and the way he is. He's just, the Master is his arch enemy, and he's still compassionate.
And again, as much as the Master is weak here, and I hate how cheesy and naff he is.
And when he talks like that,
I
and,
just-
and, he thinks he's
and
Beetlejuice.
the I'm sorry,
That's your one swear.
the eyes. Why has he got snake eyes?
I hate.
It really annoys me. And he's got to wear the sunglasses, and it's like, no, you're
I
that's
hate
Terminator.
you, Doctor.
I hate you.
Yeah, yeah. No matter how much I hate the writing and the characterization, by himself, the relationship is still relatively strong.
I think what we're talking here is the relation between the Doctor and the Master, not necessarily this Doctor and this Master. Essentially, I think whether or not it's this Master or not, you're still seeing those binds. Whether or not it's that Master, it's just the idea of the Doctor and the Master, which is embodied here by these two.
Yes, and I would say Paul McGann does carry that.
Yes, completely. Paul McGann carries a lot of this.
Yes,
this thing.
I would very much agree.
But again, there's just so much that we've already had a Doctor section, but there's just so much I love about him that I can just keep. Like another note, I was just going to say here before I ask you a question, which I've already warned you about anyway.
I think I know where this is going.
But one thing I really liked here is that he doesn't even have a sonic screwdriver for the majority of the episode. And he's still doing all these things. The bit when he steals that guy's ID as well. No psychic paper. That's not been invented yet. The Doctor's still getting the job done. This is something I wish we'd see more in New Who. We rely on the psychic paper and the sonic screwdriver way too much in New Who, and I wish they would get rid of it because it's even nice seeing. Because actually, this is the first time we'd seen the sonic screwdriver since I think 1982, because they got rid of it. It was destroyed, and they went, "We're using this too much," and Classic Who barely used it, and even then they said we're using this too much, so got rid of it. So the 5th Doctor, 6th Doctor, and 7th Doctor never used sonic screwdriver. Then they brought it back for the 8th Doctor, but only for 30 seconds max. And now it's zzz at everything. It's like, what are you doing? Like even like the bit when he goes to the big clock to take that device out, just unscrews it with his hand. And I thought in New Who we'd spend 20 minutes, just unscrew it. How hard is it? Do you know what I mean? So I do that. But the thing I'm going to bring on to here, before maybe we then go into what we do to fix this, unless I have anything else I need to say.
I need to do a quick moment on the medical negligence.
Yes, we'll come on to that. I think we can insert that into what we would do to fix this, because there's a few things we can say about that. The one thing I'm going to ask you now is that on this podcast, you've been introduced to the 13th Doctor, and you've also been introduced to the 8th Doctor. I know you've already seen the mini-sode, but doesn't really count, does it? So this is
quickly one good thing about the webisode, the little mini webisode thing.
You watched it afterwards, didn't you?
I saw it when it first came out. I saw that episode, that little mini thing when it first came out. Cool, enjoyed it. It meant nothing to me. But straight after watching this film, it meant so much more.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly well done. And Paul McGann's acting was on point. It felt like the same Doctor, but it felt like someone who's gone through a little bit of something, and you could feel character development there. But you really saw that this is what the Doctor, this is a great just stepping stone into New Who. Just a little passing of the baton. And it's vital, and it shows you the Doctor being like, I'm not this kind person anymore, because I can't be.
Yeah.
And then you get all of New Who. And it's so well done. And when he first shows up, and you said it gave you goosebumps as well, when he first shows up and says, I'm a doctor, but probably not the one you're expecting, it's like, yes, you are.
Yeah, that's exactly my reaction. I was saying it to you yesterday, and I'll say it on here before, but I was saying, like when people find out when John Lennon died, or when they found out when Princess Diana died, and they could say, I remember where I was when I found that out. That's how I feel about this that mini-sode, Night of the Doctor, because it came so out of left field. There was no room. There might have been rumours, but I don't know. I wasn't following that kind of thing then. So I had no idea this was going to happen. And I've got Doctor Who on post notifications on my phone, but we're talking 2013. So, Jesus Christ, that's 8 years ago.
Don't do that to me.
Do not like that. I remember seeing, it was like Doctor Who, Night of the Doctor mini-sode, and the thumbnail was Paul McGann. And I remember, like, whatever I was doing, I was like, oh my God, I need to sit down and watch this. Because I was like, what the hell? Like, there was no... Like,
Your reaction to that is how I reacted to David Tennant coming back. It was the same, like, just for me, it was like, oh my...
Well, we were told that was going to happen.
No, but I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention.
On the news.
No, but I wasn't paying attention to... Right, do I watch the news? I just... Right. Don't be tarnishing my moment by saying I live under a rock.
It came so out of left field that I couldn't believe what was up. And I watched it, and it's not even like it was like, oh, that was all right. It's amazing.
It's fabulous.
It's 6 minutes, and it's pure. Like you said there, that's the exact reaction I had when he says, "I'm the Doctor, but probably not. I'm a Doctor, probably not the one you're expecting." My reaction to that is, "Yes, you are. You've said one line,
and I felt like you.
And you are, and I can feel the Doctor." It took me 2 series of Jodie Whittaker to go, maybe you're the Doctor. but one line, not even the full minisode, one line of Paul McGann. And I was like, yes, you are. And throughout that, like I was saying to you, he's the I believe him and the Fourth Doctor maybe are tied or something, but he is the Doctor with the most amount of stories because he's done all the novels, all the audio adventures, all of them in the wilderness years, as they're called, are all the Eighth Doctor. And even when Doctor Who came back, he still does them. And he's still done ones recently. His Doctor recently crossed over with the 10th Doctor. They've recently done... Paul McGann does it. He's so... If I was Paul McGann, I'd have given up 15 years ago. There's no need for him to still do that. Do you know what I mean? He's done enough. There is no reason why Paul McGann still needs to do Doctor Who. He doesn't need it. But he still does it because that's his Doctor. And there's still things he thinks, I can do more with this. So when he steps back into playing it in live action, he's so strong because he never left, really. So even though we've seen the beginning of him in the movie where he's the romantic, energetic, everything's so positive. And he's even talking about Gallifrey and the bit when they get the big screen up above the TARDIS and he goes, there's Gallifrey over there, which looks like Earth in this one, but we'll just ignore that. But he goes, there's Gallifrey. But then when we next see him, Gallifrey's at war and is raining hell down on the universe around it. And I love to see how he isn't playing that Doctor anymore. Well, he's still that Doctor, but I mean, all of that hope and everything has gone. And in 6 minutes and in one line, we can see that from Paul McGann, which is why I think he's an extremely, extremely underrated Doctor. And I think overlooked because of just how short he was in it. But I think he's a seriously good Doctor.
He's fabulous. He really is. And I think he... I think the reason he probably is overlooked because he doesn't fit into the classical Who or New Who, technically.
No, there's even in Queer as Folk by Russell T Davies, obviously. One of his characters in that is a huge Doctor Who fan. And he's on about when he gets a boyfriend, his boyfriend will be able to name all the Doctors and that kind of thing. So his best friend knows all of this about him and knows he's obsessed with Doctor Who. So he goes, you've been with me for so long, I bet you can name all the Doctors. And he goes, yeah, Hartnell, and goes through them all. Then he stops at McCoy. And then he goes, what about McGann? And then together they go, McGann doesn't count. So that's how it was. That was 1999. So that's how he's seen. So obviously when this happened, it was like, oh, McGann doesn't count. And it wasn't until New Who then said, no, I'm the 9th Doctor, that it was like, yeah, the last guy does count.
Yeah. And he deserves to count.
Yeah.
That's the main thing here. But let's move on to, you were going to ask me a question.
Yes, I will say that now because we're talking about this. Now you can see him. You know 7 Doctors now. I'm not going to count the 7th Doctor.
Not personally.
Yes, I'm not going to. I'm not going to say you know the 7th Doctor because, like we said, all he says in this is just time malfunction.
He would be at the bottom of my list
because all he says is just that's all he does. So I'm not going to count him, but you know 7 Doctors now. So if you had to rank them, where would the 8th Doctor come in this? Obviously, we all know what number 1 is going to be. So begin
Jodie Whittaker.
So begin there, yes. So
are we going from worst to best? Oh.
I'd say start at best because we know what that's going to be. There's no point starting at the bottom and counting down.
Nobody'd be like, what's it going to? It's David Tennant.
What's going to be first place? Like,
number
we know
1 is David Tennant by far for me. Second, I would say...
You will obey me. You know what you've got to pick.
I know. Matt Smith, personally. Okay. Second for me. Third, Peter Capaldi.
Yep.
Fourth, Christopher Eccleston.
Yep.
Who else is there?
You've got John Hurt, Jodie Whittaker, and Paul McGann left.
Oh, John Hurt. Oh, that's an... Oh...
So David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, I know where I am.
I'm just recapping for the listeners.
Okay, it's just between John Hurt and Paul McGann. Now, John Hurt, amazing. Paul McGann, amazing.
Because again, both Doctors with very little time to the name.
That's the thing.
Essentially, I reckon they probably have almost the same amount of screen time.
But Paul McGann did technically play it longer, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, in minutes of screen time, I do think it's
action.
Very, very similar.
I think I will have to put John Hurt next, yeah. And then Paul McGann, and then
Jodie Whittaker last, yeah. My version of that would be Capaldi first, then Tennant, then Christopher Eccleston, then John Hurt, then McGann, 5th, not 6th, then Matt Smith, then
Eccleston's far
then-
down on your line, and so is
and then
Matt Smith.
Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah. Oh, but fair
Yeah,
enough.
that
But
would
I
be mine.
think no matter what with my lists, just a recap of the lists because I want them to remember mine more than yours.
Yes.
It was David Tennant, then Matt
Matt
Smith,
Smith.
then Capaldi, then Eccleston, then John Hurt, then Paul McGann, and then
Yeah.
whoever was left.
For the video version, I'll put them up on the screen.
Oh,
So people listening will be like, oh, that's why I'm recapping. For people just listening, will be
Yes.
like, what was that again? But if you're watching, there will be graphics somewhere here. So
just put them right here. What I want to just say is, I that list is very close. Apart from David Tennant, because he's like, but that list is very close. Jodie Whittaker, I think, had potential, so she doesn't.
she's on that list, but she's far away on that
Yeah,
list.
I'd have to say because just the writing isn't there for me. But for
No.
the other doctors, I think it is there, and they're very close. They're like, it's like David Tennant, those lot, Jodie Whittaker. That like it just because I think they're all really really strong, and I kind of had to list them in. Like when it was between John Hurt and Paul McGann, the reason I put John Hurt higher is because how I do love John Hurt as an actor in
It's
other
John Hurt,
stuff,
innit?
you know.
So,
So I
yeah.
kind of it's just
Yeah.
like I prefer him as an actor, and I do think his character is probably more important for the development of Doctor Who story wise. So I do just have to put him a bit higher.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's just showing that even though what that shows is that even though you've put Paul McGann second to last,
Yes.
it's still hard to rank him because
Yes.
of how underrated he
like,
is.
He may be second
'Cause
to
you think-
last
'cause it's like-
objectively in the list, but
Yeah,
he's
because it's like
but he's-
numbers wise, he's second to last. But you're looking at that and going, well, that should be higher
Mm.
because you're like thinking it's like, oh, I'm blocked by those five.
Yes,
it can't,
yes.
it can't go any higher because he can't penetrate that. But my God, do I want him to put him in there?
It's more like you've got David Tennant at the top, Jodie Whittaker at the bottom, and then you've got those lot in the middle, just
together.
jumbled up.
Yeah.
It's like just a ball where they're all
That's how
wibbling around.
That's how I find him because it's whenever I try to rank all doctors, which because I'm so bored and sad, I've done many times over.
I mean,
my,
we're doing a Doctor Who
I've-
podcast.
I've done it many times over my life. I always look at the Eighth Doctor and I go, he's near the bottom of my list, but my God, do I love him? So it's hard for me to do that.
Mm.
But as we run out of time, one thing we can do now is what would you do to fix this episode? I think
Well-
I've got through all of my notes.
Yeah. I've just got one big point here to make. So, how does the Doctor die in this? Gunshot wound, Aidan? How was it? I forget.
Well, maybe that could be one thing you'd like to fix.
That is one thing I'd like to fix, but I just want to take a moment for this. It is the Doctor
the
dies.
Doctor is shot by a gang. Does that kill him? No, it does not.
The medical professionals, the other doctors. Whenever you say the Doctor with another doctor in a sentence, it just sounds like you're talking about the same person.
Yeah.
So the other medical people, they patch him up easy peasy, but then they notice his heart's beating a bit off. The reason for that, he's got two hearts, obviously. So, what do they go for, Aidan?
Stab!
That's what they do. He dies because they kill him. He's murdered by some doctors in an operating room. It annoys me so much. Just
Put a finger on his wrist. It's really not that hard.
just check his pulse.
Yeah.
And it would have been, oh, he's fine. Instead of, let's just stab him. They kill him. The doctor's murdered by the American healthcare system. That is amazing.
But without that, we wouldn't have got Paul McGann.
No, so I'm very
And
grateful.
we wouldn't have
to
got
America, thank you for killing the doctor.
we wouldn't have got the regeneration scene with the amazing cinematic parallel to Frankenstein.
Yes.
What genius idea
Very well.
that
A bit on.
is.
It was very much on the nose, but it was very well done. I
Yeah.
liked it. Well, to fix it, Aidan, what I do is with what I've just mentioned, the medical negligence, I just make it so. Just have him actually shot, and they're having to get the bullet out of him, and then he goes into cardiac arrest while he's there.
Mhm.
I just think that's done better. Mwah. What else would I change? As I've said, I'd change the harmony room to the Infinity Stones. That's what I'd change it to that. I'd make every element in this film that is very paranormal more sci-fi. I'd do that to every element.
Yeah.
I'd get rid of the snake. I'd maybe recast the Master or just write him better. Whichever one fixes that problem.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'll say here, because I think that most of my changes would be in the Master. I'd say we need to write him differently from the ground up, but also I'd say recast as well. Because I was watching it going, okay, this isn't Eric Roberts' fault. This is the writer's fault. But it kind of is as well.
He's not a great choice for
because
it either.
there are lines there that didn't need to be said in that stupid voice. And do you think that isn't in the script? I'm sure.
Maybe if he knew what the Master was
There are
like.
there are lots.
Did he actually watch the Master? Because has the Master ever done that before? You know?
No, I doubt it. That's one of the things I'd change. I'd recast and change the Master's writing.
Okay.
And I know we always say in this episode we try not to talk about production issues like that, but I do think he was the wrong. As much as I appreciate Eric Roberts because he does a lot of independent stuff and he helps out a lot of.
And I do think he's a good actor and he's fantastic in the Dark Knight.
And I do think this isn't a slant on him at all, but I do think he was he was the wrong choice to read bad writing.
He was just the wrong choice for this role, personally.
Yeah.
Like he's just like that's just like Jim Carrey would have been I like Jim Carrey and some
doctor,
stuff.
Yeah.
He would have been atrocious, and Doctor Who would have never come back.
No.
But so yeah, I'd recast, and now that you've said it, I'd recast and rewrite the Master. What else would I change? If I could write it a bit differently, so it felt more film-like later on, like in parts in the entire film, I would, but I don't really know I can do that. But other than that, I think it is just strong for kind of being what it is. Like it's a good bridge between the two.
It's a good bridge, and I think I think it tells you everything you need to know about Doctor Who as well. He tells you he's a Time Lord. He tells you you can regenerate. He shows you what a TARDIS is. He tells you what Time Lords are. He tells you what the Master are. He even mentions the Daleks. There's all these things there. Everything, the groundwork is there for a reboot. Something I really wish we could have got was, imagine if we got a sequel to this with Daleks. I think that could have been extremely strong.
Yes.
Paul McGann, again, go for another one-off companion if you want. Because I think the reason they leave the companions here is so that if a reboot did happen, they could just start with their own companions. I believe that's probably what they were doing there.
Yes.
And rather than having to get Grace back or anything
It's
like that.
nice because in any special, like this basically just feels like a big special. It's nice to have a new companion because it means the Doctor doesn't have any baggage from anything else. It's just fresh. It's all fresh.
Yeah. So I do think if they could have very easily just done I would love to have seen a sequel to this with Daleks. Alas, it didn't happen.
It would have been nice to see Paul McGann's Dalek speech.
We've never seen Paul McGann's face the Daleks a billion times on audio, but we've never seen him with Daleks. That's something I think we were deprived of. Obviously, that's not what would I do to fix this. Generally, all my fixes come in the form of the Master because him spitting venom and turning into a snake and all of that, I just think is so wrong.
And very paranormal. It's not sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what I would change. Besides, and maybe make Shang-Chi less gullible.
Or just have him hypnotized. If you're gonna make him that gullible, just have him hypnotized.
Yeah, don't make him possessed though, because I hated those black eyes. I hated that so much. So don't make him possessed, but make him hypnotized. Just make sure you don't give him any contact lenses or anything. But generally, it's a very 90s piece of Doctor Who. And I think it does its job. Unfortunately, the market didn't react well to it.
I can understand that.
And I think, again, because they were aiming at an American audience, and American audiences didn't get into Doctor Who until Matt Smith was the Doctor. So even David Tennant couldn't win the Americans. So Paul McGann's not going to. For
the English, the British, to win over the Americans with our film and television is always tough.
Yeah.
Because we have very different senses of humour.
Yeah. So I think trying to aim it at that American audience is dooming it to fail.
It's setting it up to be like I enjoyed this, but because I kind of know other Doctor Who, and because and it kind of
you can appreciate. Oh my God! So all of that romantic and the kissing, because this is the first kiss ever in Doctor Who. So many people kicked off.
Oh come on!
They were like at the time.
People back then were so.
But if you based it on. But I probably would. If we was such a thing as podcasts in 1996, and we were talking about it,
a radio station,
we'd be kicking off because we'd be going, the Doctor's never kissed anybody before. Why? That isn't
because we wouldn't have had any precedent for it.
We would be kicking. We'd be going. Since when was he? We'd go. He never falls in love with his companions. He never does this. We would be kicking off.
You're right. But since I've seen David Tennant snog all of his companions,
but now that seems normal. And when you see it here and you look at these people who were like, the Doctor would never do that. We're like, well, he does it loads afterwards, but this is the first time.
It's stuff like this which really kind of shows me you've just got to be open to this new development. And if you disagree, you've got to justify it. Like with the Timeless Child, which is we will justify next week.
Yes. No, week after.
Week after.
Yes.
I don't know what time or what week is which.
So besides that, though, I have little else because it is, as we all say, it does what it's supposed to do. But I would change a lot about the Master.
Yes.
I feel like this morning when I was in the shower, I had something else that I was going to change because I remember thinking, oh, there's going to be a big what would I do to fix this section, but I cannot think for the life of me what that was.
I was standing in the shower just.
So I can't think what that was. Besides that, though,
that's it. Yeah.
I think that is us done on
honestly,
the TV
though,
movie.
just to say, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I do think
Paul McGann, fantastic.
For anybody who has seen the TV movie and thinks, oh, I'm not sure about that, I'd say go away and give it another watch.
Yeah.
I got a BritBox free trial to watch this just because I gave you my DVD.
I got the DVD.
I gave you the DVD I got the free trial so I can put the pictures on top of this as well. So
Lovely.
I wouldn't have been able to do that with the DVD.
It was quite nice with the DVD because it didn't tell me the time code, so I was just like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
I'm just having a good time.
So it was like watching it on TV,
Yeah.
really, yeah.
It's quite
So
nice.
if you've seen it before, I'd say watch it again. And if you haven't seen it, and if you were like George last week, who was resistant and was like, oh, God,
Yeah.
TV movie, really? Classic Who? I'd say watch it because it is not Classic Who.
If you haven't seen this, watch it. I would say watch it.
Because it's not Classic Who.
No.
But it's not New Who
It's-
either.
it-
It's a
it-
very interesting bridge.
Yes. And it's very much of the time as well. That being
Yeah.
1997 or whatever.
Six.
It
It was released in May 1996, but set in December 1999. A very easy thing to get confused about. Anyway,
Yes.
that's the...
Wait, so going into the 2000s. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
but no,
'cause it's
that's
all
the end.
set on New Year. So that's that one. Next week, as we wrap up before we
We're running out of
before
time.
we get rushed out of this room, we're already over our slot. Next week is what I'm dubbing our most ambitious episode yet,
Oh, yes.
because we are taking on the Monk trilogy.
Woo!
I think an incredible set of Peter Capaldi episodes, but for some reason, the wider public do not agree. And I see them those episodes ranked. One of the episodes is ranked very high, but the other two are ranked very low.
So we're going to debunk that.
So
I'm going to agree with them, which will be a problem.
Yes, potentially, but I'm going to say Monk trilogy next week in our penultimate episode of
Of the
series
series
1 of Exterminating Doctor Who.
Or for the Americans out there, season 1. As far as we know, our 2 listeners could all be Americans.
Maybe, yes. So
Why
that's-
would they? I don't know.
No. So
But no.
thank you very much for listening,
Thank you, guys.
and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. See ya.